Hey everyone. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Am I actually coming through? Thank you for all the kind words. Can you actually hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Muffled. Sounds a bit off. Yeah. Well, I'm flying. You know what's crazy is I'm flying in like a. Hey, you know what I could do? I mean, wonder if I could actually change my input. Thumbs up. You guys can hear me. I was wondering if I could like change my input to my Rode mic instead of using my earbuds. From an Australian, how come there was no tomato sauce or onions on that sausage sizzle? Was the tradition not explained? I'll tell you why there were no onions or tomato sauce. Because I have acid reflux. In fact, I'm coming in broken and garbled. It's because I have acid reflux, and I always keep some acid reflux medicine on me. Uh, so that's why I didn't have tomato sauce or onions because I didn't want to have to deal with any reflux. Let's see. I actually have a question about one of your most recent videos. You suggested to drone strike disinformation spreaders. How do we make the distinction between state actors and civilians? Intelligence. That's how. We surveil these people. We take a look at the volume of traffic coming in and out of the data center. It might not necessarily mean hitting people. It might mean hitting the data center. It might mean doing a cyber attack. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is right now, but that's why I'm meeting with Army lawyers or JAG, Judge Advocate Generals, on Sunday or Monday, Sunday, yeah, on Sunday. So we'll see. Yeah, sorry the quality is iffy. I wish I could reduce the video and just get more of the audio, but I don't really know how to do that here. So, could you elaborate on why the outcome of the U.S. election doesn't matter to Ukraine? Um, Probably doesn't matter because ultimately this isn't the U.S. isn't the hokey pokey, right? We're not what it's all about, and there's a reason we have a NATO alliance. And yes, the U.S. is a big part of that NATO alliance, but ultimately, NATO is going to spin up their artillery shell production, their weapon system production, in order to help give Ukraine the munitions they need. And also, no matter who enters the White House, they're going to get briefings from the CIA. I mean, I can't remember the name of the Speaker of the House, Mike. Oh shoot, do you remember who the Speaker of the House was? What's the name of the Speaker of the House? I can't remember either. I tried to ask my seatmate over here. Um, but he was against sending aid to Ukraine, and then he got a briefing by the CIA, and all of a sudden he changed his tune, right? So I think no matter who gets into office, once they get that CIA brief, they'll go, oh. And plus, by defending Ukraine, that is the best way of defending Taiwan. Because if the US and Europe won't defend Ukraine, we're certainly not going to defend a country that's 3,600 miles, 10,000 kilometers from nowhere, right? So, um, yeah, I don't really envision um, Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson, thank you. Mike Johnson, he's the Speaker of the House. So, Mike Johnson got a brief by the CIA and he walked out a changed man. GERD, yes, that's what I have, acid reflux. What happened in the UK tonight? I don't know what happened in the UK tonight. No, I'm going to see Jake Crow tonight. Jake Crow might actually be picking me up from the airport. Um, on a live stream. I just got a ping from him, actually. Yeah, Jake Bro's actually going to pick me up from the airport. I don't know what happened in UK tonight. Let's see, what else we got here? How can you be so good with using technology to consolidate open source intel but don't know how to reduce video? You know, this is like a YouTube stream, and I don't see a I don't see an option here to reduce video quality. So I unfortunately, I can be good with computers, but if there's no option to reduce video quality, then there's not a lot I can do. Ryan, do you like boba tea? I've never had it. I don't even know what boba tea. I think like boba. I think that was in like the Cobra Kai show, like the car dealership had boba tea, but I've never had boba tea. Simon says, given it seems now it's impossible for an armed force to mass forces of the enemy, knowing how can Ukraine achieve a breakthrough through Russian lines? It's hard. It's really hard. I can see a future where it's going to be very difficult to perform a breakthrough. Somehow they did it in Kursk. I don't know how they did it in Kursk, but they were able to achieve surprise. The only thing I can think of is that the Russians were caught with their pants down. They didn't have good surveillance on the border. I don't know. Well, thank you. I appreciate you too. Thank you, Pathological Doubt. Stop drinking. I'm never going to stop drinking, dude. Especially on an airplane. They give it to you for free. Don't worry about the quality of the video, just the quality of the content. Oh, I think my dinner is here. So, believe it or not, back when, thank you. So, back back in the 2000s, they actually used to give you dinner for free on a plane, whether you wanted it or not. I'm old enough. Oh, I don't know if I can do a live on Substack. How many command sergeants major in the U.S. Army? I don't know that. That's a good question. Every battalion has a sergeant major. Every brigade has a sergeant major. But I really don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. Sounds like something you could Google, though. I'm going to Vegas for business or pleasure. So I'm going to Vegas to appear on a podcast. The podcast is called It's crazy. I'm so busy. I don't even know the darn name of the podcast. I am going to Las Vegas for the Digital Social Hour podcast. Digital Social Hour podcast. So that should be fun. I'm going to stay an extra day just so I can hang out with Jake and make some videos there. So Fed pay says is around 3,700 command sergeant majors. That's like an entire brigade right there. Never stop drinking. Thank you. Are you gonna have an Angels Envy IV when you land at the hospital? Well, I got some Woodford right here. Get some baby Woodford in my got tiny Woodford, and I had some points. So typically when I go to a podcast, it's part of my rider that I get business class. Because you want to arrive fresh and you don't want to deal with any problems. And, you stay at a nicer hotel because you don't need to worry about being in some drug hotel, right? So that's all written into my rider, written into my contract. So one of the nice parts of a business class is that if you want to keep drinking, they're going to keep feeding you drinks. I could get used to this. Hey Ryan, how would it be decided in which domain attack in a specific domain would be answered? So I guess you mean like what domain do you respond in? Is there proportionality? Um, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. That's something for lawyers to decide. You know, I think that if somebody attacks you on the water, that doesn't mean you can't attack them on land, right? So if someone performs a cyber attack, I see nothing wrong with performing a kinetic air attack or a tomahawk missile attack. You know, war is war, and so crossing domains. I see no problem crossing domains. Yep, that's right. Those were the days we got free airplane food. What's your take on a potential Middle East regional war? I don't see a Middle East regional war as a possibility because in order to have like a genuine, honest to God regional war, you need to be able to deploy troops and sustain them. Iran doesn't have that capability, and neither does Israel. Israel can get into Lebanon, but that's about it. It's about as far as they're going to go. They just don't have the arms and legs to actually cross much further into Lebanon. Israel is not going to invade Iran. That's not going to happen. Iran is not going to invade Israel. It's not going to happen. And Egypt, Jordan, Syria is a freaking basket case. Egypt and Jordan aren't going to invade Israel. Egypt is hard up for hard currency because the what do you call it? Red Sea, oh my God, Suez Canal has been shut down. They don't have enough money for a war. You know, and Syria is a freaking basket case. You know, they can't go to war. So yeah, it's I don't really see how anyone can do a regional war. But the most they can do is toss missiles at each other, and eventually you run out of missiles. So I don't really see a regional war as a possibility. Just tossing missiles at each other. Eventually, you get tired of that. When am I going to do my? Let's see here. Are you going to do DEF CON? I am not going to do DEF CON. I'm there to do a podcast. Then I'm going to stay for a day to like hang out with Jake Bro. And then I got to fly to Ohio for this meeting with some JAG attorneys. Enjoy your flight. Question: do you think this is from Mud? You think we might see the Russian front collapse within the year? It's possible, especially if an army isn't being fed or isn't getting good equipment. It's certainly possible. I think it's more likely it'll happen in probably the next 2 years, but it's possible. Ryan, when are you going to do your favorite fiction books? You know, my first video where I went over my nonfiction books, it didn't actually do that well. So I don't know if I'll do another video about that. Maybe, but like, nobody watched the first video I did with the nonfiction books. So, that doesn't really make me want to do another video, but it's possible. My brother and I were arguing about Canada sending money to Ukraine. My brother thinks they have a moral obligation to send money. I don't think Canada. Thoughts? I mean, I think there might be a moral obligation for democracies to help support other democracies, right? And for the most part, well, I guess Canada does send money. I don't think Canada has sent any equipment, or maybe they've sent equipment, but I mean, it's within the world's best interests that Ukraine exists as a nation, just because, if Russia takes Ukraine, they're going to get emboldened. They will take the Baltics, and then they will take Poland, or they'll try to take Poland. The Poles might have a couple of things to say about that. So someone just sent me a Elliot Miller. She's a 10, but she says the M10 Booker is a tank. Still worth it. Honestly, I'm in no position to argue whatsoever. Rand, get your take on the recent Ukraine moving into Russia matter. It seems like you're not worried about spiraling escalation, nuclear. Think China will make a move given the chaos? No, I don't think China will make a move given the chaos. Oh, I misspelled I misspelled my stream. Oh well. I guess it is a live stream, right? No, I don't see a nuclear war happening. Or any kind of. I mean, if Ukraine were, boy, that's a good one. If Ukraine actually invaded Kursk and made it all the way to the city, even then, that's fun because then Russia's going to be using tactical nuclear weapons on their own soil. I really don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. And, I've said that the reason that I don't believe anyone will use nuclear weapons is that China's probably told Russia, don't you dare do that, because a great case for using nuclear weapons is to destroy aircraft carriers, or I'm sorry, destroy amphibious landing groups. It's to destroy aircraft carriers too. But you hit an amphibious landing group with a nuclear weapon, that's going to ruin the amphibious landing group's day. So by using, if Russia uses nuclear weapons in Ukraine, it'll make it easier for the US or Great Britain or France to use nuclear weapons against China if China invades Taiwan. What else they got here? How long can Ukraine go without having a presidential election until they're no longer considered a democracy? They're following the law, Jeffrey. They're following the law. Their constitution says that they can't have an election during time of war. So they're following the law. So I don't think there's a time limit there. Someone said, since you're coming to WPAFB, make sure to swing by the Century Bar. What is WPAFB? I don't know what that is, Chris. WPAFB. No, I am not going to DEF CON. Talk about Scott Ritter and the FBI. Scott Ritter. We all have our demons. For some of us, it's this, right? I wonder. I don't know. I don't really know much about what happened with Scott Ritter and the FBI. Let me Google it real quick. You know what? I'm gonna shut that down. I'm not gonna. I don't want to Google it because I'm afraid of creating too many connections. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I'm not going to Wright-Pat. I'm going to Camp. I'm going to Camp Perry. Actually, a number of people were like, "Oh, I want to come and shoot the CMP match." I'm like, "Dude, I'm working." The Army. The Army's not bringing me out there for fun. The Army's bringing me out there to talk about how to more effectively kill bad guys. So yeah, not a lot of fun. How much do you think the F-16s will really impact? I mean, I think it'll impact air dominance immediately. The big thing comes from being able to use the HARM missiles to target things like jammers, because once you can start Once you're homing on jam, then you can start taking out those jammers, and it'll make the JDAM ERs so much more effective. So I think it'll have a pretty good impact. No, Chris Alvarez, Ryan, do you still have a CISSP? I do not. I never got a CISSP. I never got a CISSP. I never got a Security Plus. And that was mainly because I went and got a master's instead. What's kind of weird is that if I ever did want to get back into the real cyber end of stuff, the master's doesn't matter as much as the CISSP or the Security Plus. But, really, if I were to do this again, it would be policy. So long as Zelensky keeps that war, he can be leader for life. I don't know. I mean, that's in their constitution. Explain kids piercing their nostrils. When I was a kid, just having an earring was like a big deal, right? I don't know why people pierce their nostrils, but who am I to judge? Come to Paramp. Would love to buy you an old-fashioned grunt to grunt. That's really kind of you, man. I don't think I'll be getting out there much. CivDev says very little and gave a horrible breakdown demonstrating he doesn't understand F-16 capabilities, especially in radar. CivDev's a good guy. Any thoughts on AI drama? I don't really have any thoughts on that. You mentioned you have a labral tear, and I struggle with it. How's yours doing? So every day I do these exercises with a band. I actually have the band with me. It's like a rubber band. And I just, move my foot like that for 10 times for 3 sets, twice a day. Someone said, why do you live in DC? Have you thought of moving? I live in DC because I moved down there for a job. And technically, I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is right across the street from DC. I stayed in DC. Ma'am, can you take this? Is that okay? Thank you. Yeah, I moved to DC for work, and I decided to stay there because, that's where a lot of job opportunities are in the intelligence community. So I might be able to work out of Norfolk because I really like Virginia Beach. I have a friend of mine who lives there. But right now, DC is kind of where I have to be, at least until I get more famous and can pull a Tucker Carlson and move to a cabin in the woods. Although for me, it would probably be like a condo in Florida. Are you going to Creech to talk drones? I am not. I'm doing have you ever had an Old Bay on a natty boat? I have not. Are you going to Creech to talk drones? I am not, although I might visit Nellis. We'll see. This isn't related to your job. Do you see yourself doing any triathlons anytime soon? I got to get this labrum tear taken care of. Not the labrum tear, the plantar tear. I gotta come back from that. Like I'm slowly starting to build up my run. I'm riding just fine. I need to swim. Part of the problem is that like I work between 13 and 16 hours a day. So the thought of adding triathlon training onto that, it's like, Jesus Christ, I'm barely maintaining as it is. So, I would love to do another triathlon. I don't know if I literally have the time. Anyone sitting beside you on the plane? Yeah. Do you want to be in a video? No. He doesn't want to be in a video, but yeah, this guy is sitting beside me on the plane. Greetings from South Korea. Yeah, I've noticed there's 2 types of people who go to South Korea. There's people who love it and people who hate it. You know, hopefully you're one of the guys who hate it. What are your thoughts on the situation in Venezuela? Boy, I don't know. I don't know. Um, you know, I've heard people say that the voting system in Venezuela is actually pretty robust, and they have like a paper printout as well as an electronic copy. And I've heard people say Nicolas Maduro totally stole the election. And unfortunately, I don't know enough about Venezuela. But you want me to talk about Venezuela and voting? I just don't know enough. Um, what else I got here? What type of plane am I on? I'm on an A321. I missed one donation. Oh my God. Oh, Justin McCoy. Have you ever had Old Bay and Natty Boh? I have not. What would you like to live? Where would you like to live abroad if you had the choice? Boy, that's a tough one. Um, I don't know. Someplace where there's good gun rights and there's a beach. So maybe Italy. You know, I mean, I hear Panama's nice. Um, but honestly, like I love Florida. Like I really like Florida. I really like Tampa. I like Clearwater. I like Miami. There's so many good places in America. Um, Ryan, I love your combat video breakdowns. Can you do more of those? I mean, when there's something to learn, then I do them. Like if I'm just doing them to do them, like, oh, look at this guy, he got blown up. That's not my style, right? Tiny drink. Um, so if I'm 29 with ADHD, but I haven't taken medication for it in 2 years, since I hear you're a Glock guy, I am not a Glock guy. Glocks are fine. Like I'm more into a gun that actually fits your hand. Hey Ryan, fellow grunt doing some work in the stat space for a formal bank. Thinking about dipping my toes into bot hunting. Any advice for a fellow overeducated glue eater? Boy, I don't know. I mean, what's kind of tough is that you can't do this part time. Like, it consumes you. Like, this is literally all I do. Like, people ask me, oh, do you play video games or do you. It's like, no, dude. Like, literally all I do is I work, I research stuff, I write scripts, I make videos, I read books about topics I need to know. Like, I just finished a book about drone warfare in Ukraine and in Russia. Stacy Pettyjohn wrote it. Stacy Pettyjohn. I have to write her. I met her at a conference, and she knew who I was, which is weird. You know, I actually met. There was two guys on the plane here who were fans. I made a video with one of the guys, but I didn't get a chance to upload it yet. What would it take, in your opinion? What would it take to overthrow the Islamic Republic of Iran? Oh boy, I think the Artesh would have to get involved. Um, I can tell you this: never give up your gun rights. Never give up your gun rights, because when the Shah Amani was murdered and people were writing me saying, Ryan, teach us how to whatever, teach us how to fight. In Iran, they're farmers own guns. There's some sports shooters that own guns, but it's a lot harder. So I think in order for there to be a genuine revolution in Iran, the Artesh, the army, not the Islamic army, but the real army of Iran, the Artesh would have to get involved. She's a 10, but she calls you a SIG guy. I am a SIG guy, so I'm cool with that. That's pretty funny. Yeah, some people were like, "Oh, you should make a typical SIG guy T-shirt." I'm like, I don't want to get sued by SIG. It's their property, right? Yeah, Walther's a good. I like Walther. What else I got here? How feasible is it for the U.S. government porting all their code from C code to Rust? And that would take at least as long as it did to make it in the first place, and you'd be introducing mistakes. So it would be better to, to just do all new development in Rust, because every time you alter software to improve it, you're increasing the chance of making a mistake. Because at least the code base that you have now works, right? An EDC 365, put a mailbox on it. Be in Vegas on Sunday, let's hang out. I mean, maybe I'll have to ask Jake Crow if that's okay, because we got to do work. So that's the other funny thing. Like, when I get people who are like, "Oh, Ryan, let's hang out." I'm like, I gotta work. Like, a lot of people don't understand like the amount of work that gets put into making a video. Um, Even when Jake Crow and I are gonna hang out, like, we might have to write a script. We might do a skit or something, and like that could take hours, and then you have to edit it. Um, I heard that. Thank you, Roy. So, from one vet to another, what's your opinion on Walt's claiming OEF deployment when a congressman being frocked SGM or CSM? I mean, you know, so I think he deployed to Italy under OEF. So you could say, oh, he deployed to OEF. I mean, I guess technically. Who are you going to vote for? I have no clue. Um, I have no clue. No clue. Um, this thing about Governor Waltz, I mean, he did deploy, right? He deployed under OEF, right? He did deploy to Afghanistan, but he did deploy under OEF. And then, claiming he was a CSM. I mean, he was a sergeant major. Like, he attained that rank, or he was frocked to that rank, and then he lost it. I mean, I was a first sergeant. I retired as an E7. I never made first sergeant rank, and I never earned first sergeant pay, but I was in the first sergeant position. I don't go around calling myself a first sergeant, although maybe I would be technically wrong if I did. But I was only a first sergeant for, I think, 6 weeks or something like that. So, I mean, I can say I was a first sergeant, and people have called me America's first sergeant. I like that. I actually like that. And I like when people call me top, you know. But I would introduce myself as a sergeant first class who was in his first sergeant position. But if you ever want to call me top,